Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to the our Brightspace for Parents um, conference today. We're going to be moving through the session, Brightspace Portfolio, a digital tool for collecting and sharing learning. My name is Chelsea Atwell. I'm an educator at the Toronto District School Board. I'm also a hybrid teacher, digital lead learner. So currently I am supporting the TDSB virtual school as well as the digital lead learning program. But when I'm not in that specific role, I'm a kindergarten educator at Jean Lum Public School. And I'll ask Tamara if Tamara would like to introduce herself.
Oh, good afternoon. My name is Tamara Easton, and I'm also a teacher at the Toronto District School Board. I'm currently teaching French immersion kindergarten in a face-to-face setting right now, and I'm also part of the digital lead learner team for the Toronto District School Board. Please don't hesitate to put your questions in the chat today, and I will do my best to answer them.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tamara. And would David like to introduce himself?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is David McGarry. I'm a solutions engineer for D2L, which is the company that makes Brightspace.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So, our true collective effort today, everyone. So, thank you again so much for coming. I just like to say, oops, sorry. I would just like to say thank you again to our sponsors for sponsoring this event today. So, thank you. We'll begin with the land acknowledgement, and I will ask that during the land acknowledgement, you just hold your questions in the chat for a moment while we can observe the acknowledgement together. We acknowledge we are hosted on the lands of the Mississaugas of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Wendat. We also recognize the enduring presence of all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples. Okay, thank you so much. This is the bit.ly for the presentation today. So it's a published a web link, which is great because if there are any updates to the slides, you'll receive those updates immediately. I know Tamara will grab this and put it in the chat for you all if you prefer to follow along there. Okay. Our agenda for today is to explore the Brightspace environment, explore why the TDSB uses Brightspace, explore how students can access Brightspace and the portfolio tool, explore how families can view items collected in Brightspace portfolio, and of course, we'll be able to respond to your questions throughout the discussion today. So what is Brightspace? The Brightspace is the virtual learning environment built by D2L, which is the company who stands for Desire to Learn. The Ontario Ministry of Education provides Brightspace to all school boards in Ontario, including TDSB. The Brightspace virtual learning environment is a great way to connect parents or guardians to their child's digital account, offering connection to the board and Ministry of Education resources and learning tools. The virtual learning environment connects you to an account that your child will have while they are a student at the Toronto District School Board. This is the personal digital account that students will possess at the Toronto District School Board. And why might we use Brightspace? Brightspace tools are provided through the Ministry of Education to all Ontario school boards through a multi-year contract. The terms, conditions, privacy and security and data ownership have all been taken care of by the ministry. These tools are approved for use and present no liability or security concerns for principals, teachers, and schools. Support is also available in many forms, specifically for Ontario, including webinars, a YouTube channel, an online community, and a documentation site. And again, there is 24-hour support available via a live chat or phoning in for Ontario families, students, and their educators. And the Brightspace for Parents piece is really the window into your child's classroom. So throughout the presentation today, we're going to look at one specific tool within Brightspace, which is called Portfolio, because Brightspace, as we had already said, is a virtual learning environment. So it's the online space in which your child engages in learning. And within that online space, within that course, there are multiple different tools available to students and educators. And just because that tool is available, it doesn't mean that that educator is using that tool. Brightspace is a K-12 virtual learning environment. So some tools in the environment are built for our early years learners, others are elementary, and others are secondary or high school. So when we'll talk a little bit about the account creation process for families. And when you go through the account creation process, and you create your Brightspace for Parents account, you can get access to seeing assignments, upcoming work. If the teacher is using a grades tool within Brightspace, that may be available, again, if they've used that tool. And if they're using Portfolio, you will see those portfolio items, which we'll talk specifically about today, as well as something called the activity feed. And that really is like a kind of posts about updates happening in the particular classroom. And again, that is if the teacher is using that tool. For the Brightspace for Parents piece, there is actually a webinar running today, and it ran yesterday on Brightspace for Parents, but we'll share with you in a moment a link that you can use to get access to all sorts of information if you need to explore it further. So the Brightspace Learning Platform is provided to all publicly funded school districts in Ontario by the Ministry of Ed and includes a number of tools, including an online classroom, which when I say the Brightspace course, that's what we're talking about, a digital portfolio for students, and a Brightspace for parents portal in which you could go in and you can see different things related to your child's work, just like we saw on the last slide here. And note that, like I said, your child's teacher may not be using all the tools within Brightspace, as there are many. So just as a quick example, I'm a kindergarten educator, so I absolutely love using the portfolio tool, as does Tamara. We've had a lot of success with that in our classrooms. But as kindergarten educators, we're not going to use, say, the quiz tool that's available to us in Brightspace, because that tool is really for students who are slightly older. So how does your child or students log into Brightspace? First of all, they would go to tdsb.elearningontario.ca, click the staff and students login, and from there, they would put in their TDSB username and password. And that username and password is usually given to the child by the teacher. And this website here, bit.ly/TDSB, lowercase v, capital LE, that Tamara has just put in the chat. That is really your one-stop shop for all things Brightspace related in TDSB directly. So it's not the D2L site, the larger site, it is the TDSB Brightspace support site. And when you visit that site, you will see these really helpful tip sheets available to your students. And there's also information there for families as well. So we'll be referring to that site throughout the presentation. And then if your child is enrolled in a course in Brightspace, they would then go to access their course or their online classroom simply by, after they've logged in via tdsb.elearningontario.ca, they would go to the little waffle at the top of the virtual learning environment. They would then find their classroom. That's usually identifiable by perhaps the educator's name or the grade that they're in, and then they can begin to interact in that online space. And again, for helpful resources about how students can log in and find their course, please go to bit.ly/TDSBVLE. It is case sensitive, so just to keep that in mind. And then when you get to the main page that looks like this that you see here on the slides, you would click Student Guides, and those have step-by-step instructions. And then for families to access the Brightspace environment, it's a little different. We're going to start first, of course, by going to the same spot where our students went, tdsb.elearningontario.ca. And our students or our children would have clicked on that green staff and students login. However, we would click, families would click on the parent or guardians login. Okay, great. And then from there, families could proceed with making their account. And again, with their account, they would use the email address that's on file via Trillium. Okay, and Trillium, I should say, is the email that you give to the school. So it's really important that you're using the email that you have given to the school. And that's really a security feature built into Brightspace so that we can make sure that you're the parent or guardian associated with that child. And then you would put your password in. Now, if you haven't created a Brightspace for Parents account, you have the option to sign up on that screen there. And then once you've logged into Brightspace, for the Brightspace for Parents, and you've created that account. And again, like I said, there's lots of information on the TDSB website or that TDSB that bit.ly/TDSBBLE website. There's lots of information there for you. After you've gone through the account creation process, and that website does outline that process, it gives you a quick snapshot of the different items that are visible to you and to your for you and for the children associated with that particular parent or guardian. And this is just an example of one of those screens. And I'll draw your attention here to the last box on the right-hand side that has the red circle that says portfolio item. Okay, and that is the tool that we're going to talk about today specifically, because like I said, there are a variety of other tools in the Brightspace environment. And again, it's going to be dependent on what tools the teacher has selected to use with their students. And when I say a lot of tools, I mean there's quite a lot of tools available, and Portfolio is one of those tools. So we're going to dig into that a little bit more today. And again, like I said, to get connected to the Brightspace for Parents piece, go to that website that we've spoken about. And again, it is dependent on, like I said, what you're going to see being used in Brightspace is dependent on like the specific teacher and what tools they're using. So let's dig into Portfolio, my favorite tool. Portfolio is designed for K-12 students. Portfolio makes it easy for your children to capture their learning experiences, work, and share it with their educators. Educators can provide feedback to students and their families to support the learning. The Portfolio tool in Brightspace includes access via a web version or through the Portfolio app. Okay, and what was I going to say? I'm just making sure we have everything here. Yeah, so that's it. Sorry, I'm just checking the chat here to make sure we're still. Okay, perfect. And then again, what is Brightspace Portfolio? So not all children show their learning in the exact same way. And this is why I think the Portfolio tool is really powerful, because it can capture a variety of file types, which allow children to share their learning in a variety of different ways. Portfolio can capture videos, it can capture photos, it can actually capture like when I say videos, even live recordings. It can capture voice recordings. It can capture Word documents, such as a Google document or a Google slide. And it can also upload files such as like PDFs. What is Brightspace Portfolio? Again, there's two ways for students to log into the Brightspace Portfolio. They can log in via the web version, so going to tdsb.elearningontario and finding that course from that waffle and logging in. The other piece is that they can log in via the app, and we're going to explore both those options today. It's good to note, though, that if they are using the app to access Portfolio, they can only add evidence, or when I say evidence, I'm meaning whatever they're taking pictures of or their work, really. They can only add evidence to their portfolio via the app. They can't go in and see feedback, say the teacher has left for them via the app. It's really just to add evidence to their portfolio. And the web version is where they could go in, they can add evidence, but they can also see feedback left by their teachers. And then again, let's talk about that app a little bit more. It is available on iOS or Android. And when you launch the Brightspace Portfolio app, and the app is just called Portfolio, they have three options on the launch screen: class device, my device, and family device. And we're going to talk first about class device today. Class device is most often used in the face-to-face classroom setting. There is no data, and what's great about using the Portfolio app is when students take pictures, no data is saved on the specific device, and it goes straight to the child's individual portfolio. Documenting is made easy, and there's multiple entry points through using the app for kindergarten all the way to grade 12 students. And you'll see a bit of that today. So like I said, class device is the good option for face-to-face. So that's Tamara mentioned in the beginning that she is teaching in a brick and mortar school. So she is using that option. The My Device option is also great for, I would say, in class or perhaps extending learning at home. But I would say that option is better for older students. And then finally, we have Family Device, which is great for younger and older students if they're doing either virtual school, because if they are in virtual school, they are using Brightspace. Or again, if you want to extend that learning at home, Family Device is awesome. And I have to just acknowledge that last March, when schools shut down, the D2L responded immediately and added Family Device as an option to support learning in the home. So we'll talk a bit more about that. So again, like I said, we're going to talk first about class device. And when they select class device, there's then two more options that show up on the launch screen: in class mode and in class with Funster. And Funster is the first mode that we're going to talk about. So Funster is this amazing little pink monster that actually talks to the students as they go through and they document. And Funster is great because, as you can see from this screenshot, when students begin to take a picture of their work, you can see that the option to take that picture is via the little camera buttons, and those buttons are on both sides of the screen. So it makes it really easy if students are holding a mobile device to do that. And a mobile device can be like an iPad, a tablet, so a non-iPad tablet, Android tablet, or even a phone. It works great on phones as well. And again, it walks students through every step of the process. So it actually talks to the students and it tells the students what to do. And that little monster is Funster, and Funster is speaking to the children. So I would recommend this usage for kindergarten to grade 3. However, I always say to teachers, you know your class community, maybe introduce multiple ways, regardless of the age that you're teaching, and the students can decide what they like. And I do know that high school students also enjoy Funster. I have a colleague and she teaches high school, and she said her students are using this mode too. Let's take a look, and I do apologize. I was trying to play a little bit with the sound before, but I'm gonna be Funster's sound today. I wasn't getting 100% clear sound. Tamara, let's see if Tamara's gonna mute. Oh, hey, can you just, I was trying before with the sound, but let me know if you can hear any sound now.
Okay.
Did you hear anything?
No.
No. Okay. Yeah, I was having a little tricks. Anyways, that's okay. We'll go through. So like I said, when they select that class device option, you're going to see the next option is in class with Funster. And I'm going to be Funster's voice today. I'm quite good at imitating Funster as I've heard him many times. So Funster says, can you scan your class card? Okay, and you're going to see that QR code, and that QR code is available via the teacher. And the class card tells the device that, for example, this Chelsea is in, let's say, Miss Atwell's class, and they're scanning Miss Atwell's class card. And then the next QR code that you see going to be scanned is, oh, sorry, let me go back. Oh, and we're going to wake up Funster, and Funster says, well, hey there. And now the next QR code we're scanning is the student's individual pass card. So now we're going to scan Chelsea's pass card, and Funster says, "Can I see some of your cool work?" And it then prompts the student to take the photo of their work. So they hold still, and if they keep moving the camera, it actually won't take the photo, so it eliminates blurry photos. They can review the photo so they can choose whether or not they like it. And then Funster says, "Can I hear more about your work?" And then they can capture that oral recording on their work, which is awesome. And then they do their oral recording. And once they are done, the documentation, so the photo and the video, automatically goes to that student's portfolio, and the device automatically signs the student out. And what's so great about this option is that in class, when this is being used, because it automatically signs that student out, you can have multiple students using, let's say, like if the class has 3 iPads or even 1 iPad, multiple students can share that and then upload evidence just by simply scanning their individual pass card and their class pass card. And I saw that Tamara noted in the chat here that that if you change the language settings on the actual device, then the little pink monster will speak to the students in that setting. Okay, and again for, okay, perfect. Yeah, okay, great. So again, this is a really great mode because again, it scaffolds that documentation for students step by step. And I've taught kindergarten for 3 years and I've had so much success in using this in the classroom. And like I said, those QR codes are the teacher goes into their Brightspace course where they have all of their students listed. They have that class pass card that you saw scanned in the video, and then they can print off the individual student pass cards. And again, we'll talk in a little bit about how to get those pass cards if we are learning at home. But in this case, this is the teacher can get those pass cards for their students. The next option is still in class device, is in class mode. So again, I would recommend this mode for children for grades 4 to 12, and you're going to see why. Because when the students begin the documentation process in this mode, there's actually no pink monster walking them through the documentation process. So there's just words on the screen that they would have to read. So it says scan your class card. So that's what's happening here. And then it says, okay, this is the right course. Yep. Start collecting evidence. They click that blue button. And then again, they scan that individual pass card that the educator has given the students. And then they can go and begin documenting. And you can see it, like I said, in this mode, there is no, let me see if I can just, oops, let me pull it back here quickly. There is no pink monster walking them through the steps of the documentation process. But in the in-class mode, what they can do is they can turn the video around to do like a selfie. So perhaps they want to capture themselves speaking. They can take a still photo, much like we saw with the Funster mode, and they can also do a recording. And when this mode wasn't available in Funster mode, so it's really nice, again, if students want to capture, say, a performance task that they're doing, like maybe they're actually making a pattern with some blocks in class and they want to explain, the process of how they're going about doing that and actually demonstrate the task, then that's great. And they can also pull an image from the camera roll on the specific device. So I have used this mode sometimes with kindergarten students, but sometimes they just need a little bit more help with it. But like I said, to do it more independently, it's better for older kids. And again, they can do a voice recording, but you can see in this mode, they can actually listen to the recording and re-record it if they're not pleased with it. As well, they can also write additional thoughts about their work that you see here. So they can add a little bit more detail in terms of the documentation beyond just photo and voice. So this is a really great mode. And like I said, I would definitely say, grades 4 to 12, perhaps even grade 3 as well. And again, I know teachers who are really great about setting up that culture of documentation within their classroom and scaffolding that process for students so it becomes a part of their regular class community and classroom norms. And like I said, in this mode, there is that option to do the video, pull an image from the camera roll, or take a photo or do the selfie mode here. The next option that's available through the app is called family device mode. And this is that new mode that I said that was launched in the spring. So when we click on family device mode, we then get this second screen that you see here on the right-hand side. And students can select either at home or at home with Funster. And these modes are going to look very familiar to you. And then family device, again, allows for multiple users on one device because just like you saw in the in-class mode and in-class with Funster, as soon as the student documents, it automatically signs them out of the device. Selecting Funster helps children through the process for early years, especially because, again, using that Funster mode, it scaffolds that learning for them and helps them through every step so they don't miss one. No images are captured on the device. And as well, students only need their individual pass card. For this mode, they don't need that class pass card, which is why it's so great. Okay. All right. So let's look at what that looks like in action. So here we go. At home with Funster, same thing that we saw before in class with Funster. But notice this time when it's prompted to scan that QR code and Funster's still talking away, they only need their own single QR code. And then again, he's saying, can I see some of your cool work? And they take that photo, they review that photo. Funster says, can I hear more about your work? The student captures that voice recording, and now it's in their portfolio and it has signed them out. So again, if you notice, this was just a single sign-on. So the student didn't need that class pass card, they only needed that individual pass card, which is why this is such a great mode to extend learning at home because it's less steps for the teacher in getting those pass cards to students and it's less work for the students. So again, to access that QR code specifically, the student can log into their web version of Brightspace and they can click on print class pass cards and then they will be able to get access to their individual pass card. And as well, if students forget how to do this or you would like to support your child with that, there is step-by-step instructions for at home with Funster on bit.ly/TDSB VLE under student guides. This time we're selecting portfolio under students. Okay. The other option for family device is at home mode. And this is going to look very similar to what you saw before. Again, this is definitely recommended for children a little bit older, so perhaps grades 3 to 12 or 4 to 12. And in this mode, so if they click on family device, and this time they click at home, it looks very similar to that in class mode before. They start collecting evidence from their portfolio. Again, they're just scanning their individual pass card. And then again, they can start their documentation process. And again, you can see there's the option to record a video, do a selfie mode, turn the camera around, pull an existing image from their camera roll. Okay, and then again, they can create a title and add more detail to their documentation, just like we saw with that in class mode there. And I always suggest to teachers, if they're interested in using this with their students, to try the app themselves first, downloading it and just exploring with it. And I see that someone said that they might give that a try. And remember though, they would need their students' pass cards to document, but it's lots of fun. And then again, like I said, with this family device at home mode, this is a great option if you do want to do a recording, get an image from the camera roll, take a photo, or do a selfie mode. So with this option is great, again, if let's say you're doing that performance-based task. So I know right now there are some teachers who are doing music in secondary, like virtually, or visual arts. This is a great option for those teachers to capture that documentation from their students. Again, then family device at home mode, like I said, they can replace the recording here, which is nice. Again, the student can review the recording, they can replace it, they can give a title to their work and add a type additional ideas on their documentation. And again, if you want step-by-step instructions on how to use the family device at home mode, go to our Brightspace support site for TDSB, click on students, select portfolio, and you'll see step-by-step instructions written there for you. The last option through the app is my device. And this is a nice option, and I would say definitely for older students. So in here I put 6 to 12, but again, it can depend on the particular child and context. And the reason I say this is because there's a couple of steps, and we're just going to pause the video for a minute. There's a couple of steps in the sign-in process here. So to sign into the My Device mode, the student would have the app on a mobile device, and then they would go to the web version if they want to continue that sign-in process. They don't have to, but it is an option. And when they go to the web version and they click on My Portfolio, and the web version means they've logged in with that tdsb.elearningontario.ca. They found their course that their teacher has set up for them. I'm just going to go back here. And then when they select My Portfolio, they're going to go, I just want to make sure we don't miss this in the video here. They're going to go here to log into the app. They're not going to select print class pass cards. This is where students will go to get those pass cards for the at family device at home modes. They would actually click log into the app, and this QR code comes up. And it's not like that individual QR code that we saw before. It's just a QR code that connects them to tdsb.elearningontario.ca. So if they don't want to even do that, they can actually even just type on the My Device tdsb.elearningontario.ca. And then I'll show you what it looks like here. Give me a second. And then they can then they would see this screen after they put in tdsb.elearningontario. They would select staff and students, and then they would be in the app. And again, this is once they take their documentation, it doesn't automatically sign the student out. Okay, the documentation does go right away into the child's portfolio, but it doesn't automatically sign the student out. The student has to remember to sign out themselves by going to this little cog within the app on the upper, I guess, left-hand side of the screen there, and sign out. So this option is usually used for students if they have, let's say, their own device, or maybe they're the only person who's going to be using that device to document. And again, because there's no little pink monster helping them through step by step, I would definitely suggest it for older students. So they just need to remember to sign out. But that is just another option. And again, if students need support or you're helping your child with this, you can go to TDSB, sorry, not TDSB, I keep saying that, bit.ly/TDSBVLE, click on portfolio, and we have step-by-step instructions there for My Device option. So all the instructions for every way to access the app. The other way that we can interact with the portfolio tool within Brightspace is to access it via the web version. And again, this is for students. So students would then go to tdsb.elearningontario.ca. They would log into their online course, and they would select My Portfolio from the navigation or nav bar. And again, students, even if they are using Brightspace, they may not see My Portfolio there because their teacher may not be using this particular tool within Brightspace, but they may see it there. And then again, they would get access to all of the courses in which they have a portfolio assigned to them. So this is actually a secondary, so a high school example. So in high school, students have more than one course, a little different from elementary. And again, they would see all the courses in which portfolio is assigned. And then to add evidence to their portfolio, to add work or documentation to their web version of the portfolio, they would simply click on Add to Portfolio. And then they can add, again, anything there. So we'll take a look at what that looks like here. So they would go to My Portfolio within their course. They choose the portfolio in which they would like to add to. So again, they may have more than one. They select Add to Portfolio, and then this is where they can connect to a variety of different document types, which is helpful. Again, so they can do audio recordings. They can, again, upload a photo, for example. They can connect to their Google Drive if they're using that, or actually a computer on, or a file on their actual computer. Tamara, are we okay for questions?
Yes, everything seems to be really well so far.
Great, thank you. And then, of course, if they have added evidence to their portfolio, the student, whether it's through the app in one of those modes or through the web version, in the web version, they can go back and they have a few more options in terms of what they can do. So they can actually delete the evidence. So if they no longer want it, they can do that. They can listen to their recordings there. They can add a reflection, which is actually a really nice opportunity to do that, which you see here circled on the screen. They can add a reflection, or finally at the very bottom of the screen here, they can add a category and organize their work. And those categories are, there's two types. There's what we call school categories and class categories. And we'll look at what that looks like here in this little video, because it's always easier to watch it than to explain it. So when they go into their web version, so again, they can't do this through the app. This is only via the web. They would go into their portfolio. They would select a piece of evidence that they would like to assign a category to. So here is one. So they can see, they can put their reflection here, so they can add a reflection about their work. So again, perhaps their teacher has given them feedback, which we'll see in a few minutes, and maybe they want to write back to their teacher. They can edit their idea if they want to change it. So it looks like the student's going to add a little bit more detail here. Okay, perfect. And then the categories. So those school categories, which you see here, are automatically generated for the teacher and the student depending on the grade that they're in. So if they're kindergarten to grade 12 student, they will see the TDSB global competencies, and they'll see, yes, I said kindergarten to grade 12 students, they'll see the TDSB global competencies, and they'll see the 4 frames. And the 4 frames are sort of the 4 curricular areas that correspond with the kindergarten curriculum, such as belonging and contributing, demonstrating math and literacy behaviors. If they're a grade 1 to 12 student, they will see again the TDSB global competencies, and they'll also see the learning skills. So learning skills are like organization, responsibility, those learning skills. And of course, the TDSB global competencies are listed here under communication, global citizenship and character, critical thinking, and problem solving. So they can add those school categories there, or they can use class categories, which are categories that the teacher creates for them. So example, looks like this teacher has done energy, plants, and science. So they can use those class categories. And again, this is not necessarily something that I would ask my kindergarten students to do. I would definitely ask them to document, but maybe not necessarily go in and add those additional reflections themselves or add those categories. But if I'm in class with them, I may review that documentation with that student in a small group setting, and then we could go through and do this process together to support them. So lots of different ways that this can be utilized, and it really does depend on the needs of the teacher and the students specifically. So sharing feedback with students in portfolio is so important. The educator can leave feedback for students through the web version, of course. So sharing feedback with students is important because this process supports students to reflect on their learning and understand where they need to go next. Portfolio supports the process of educators noticing and naming the learning and sharing descriptive feedback with their students. And in younger grades, in the early years, we do talk about noticing and naming the learning. So for example, if I'm in a kindergarten classroom and I see students engaging in play, and I see a child who has created a tower with blocks, and maybe the blocks are colored, and they've made something with all the red blocks, and then, about, a few inches over, they've created a creation with all the blue blocks. I might say, wow, I really like how you sorted those blocks. Or could you tell me about why you put these blocks together and these blocks together? And then we would have a conversation that would probably lead to sorting, right? And categorization, which is a way for me to notice and name a mathematical behavior. And then in older grades, we call that descriptive feedback. So if a student does an assignment, before maybe we give them a final mark on that particular assignment, we might say, you know what, you've written this paper, it's great, but let's work a little bit more on the paragraph structure. Let's work a little bit more on the spelling. I would give them that feedback, and then they could go and make those changes before we give them that final mark. And that's a process of descriptive feedback because it identifies what the student is doing and where they can go next. Students can also see previous portfolios from past years, and educators can easily share that evidence with families. So again, the educator can leave feedback for the students to view. The educator can also connect to curriculum expectations should they choose to. And that's what this educator has done here. They put, thank you for sharing what your plant needs to grow. What do you notice about the roots of your plant? So I always love sort of leaving a question for my students because, again, it gets them thinking perhaps that next step. And again, this may, as a parent or guardian, you may not always see information left by the child's educator. You may see an item shared with you. There may be feedback there. There may not be. It's going to depend on that particular educator in that context. Again, like we said in this view, students can also write a reflection and categorize their work. And teachers can do this too. So teachers can also add those categories to the particular piece of work. And then finally, for families, how can we share all this amazing learning with you? Because again, Brightspace for Parents is really a window into your child's classroom. So all portfolio artifacts that are being shared with parents or guardians will appear in that Brightspace for Parents view. So just to be clear, just because a child has uploaded something into their portfolio, the teacher then can share that with families. So just because that item is there, it doesn't mean that families through that Brightspace for Parents view automatically see it. And again, just to give an example, because I use this tool a lot in kindergarten, in the beginning of the year when students are learning how to document, sometimes they take pictures of like the ceiling or the light, right? Of course, by accident, right? Where they're just trying to figure it out. I'm not necessarily going to share that with families, but we would definitely talk about that in class and say, oh, I noticed you were trying to take a picture of something, like, did you miss? And they might say, yeah. And then we would have a whole discussion about how can we take a photo and camera angles, and we will build that into our learning throughout the year. So we would share those significant pieces. Or maybe a child is really proud of something and they will even come to me often and say, can I share this with my family? I absolutely love it. And for sure they would. And that's that relationship that you have with that child. And again, it's great when students get to the point where they know exactly what pieces they want to share, because it really shows them becoming aware of their own learning. And again, families can also see reflections left by the children on that piece of work. Any feedback left by the educator is visible there. If the educator has attached curriculum expectations, that will be left there as well. And parents or guardians do have access to archive portfolio items previously shared with them. So sometimes for those reflection pieces as well, like that the child does, sometimes for me, what I've done in the past is in that feedback section, I've actually put in quotes, maybe what the child said about the work. So as the family's reviewing it, they can see their comments that their child made themselves if they're a little bit younger, and of course might need help with that process. And then again, like I said, you as the parent or guardian would see those portfolio items listed in that summary here. And then you could click on that particular portfolio item. And then if the teacher shares that portfolio item, you as the parent or guardian would see it. And it looks like here we have an example from a grade 12 student. And here is something that the student has created for physics. I do not teach grade 12 physics, but obviously this is something that they've made. You can see up here, the teacher has left some feedback. It looks like they've attached curriculum expectations to that specific piece of work. There is also a rubrics tool available in Brightspace. And again, depending on the class context, it may or may not be used. So in this case, it looks like the teacher has used the rubric tool and attached the rubric to that portfolio item and given the child some leveling and some feedback. And of course, the parent can hear the child talking about their particular creation. And again, this is an educator view of the portfolio. So for the educator, this is what they would see, very similar to the parent view as well. So that really brings us to the end of the presentation. I do just want to draw your attention to the support resources here. I'm sure tomorrow we'll put them in the chat for you. So of course, we've talked a lot about our TDSB Brightspace support site. We have the D2L family support and resources available at Brightspace for K-12 schools. So that's a great website for families to visit. And I put the conference website here as well. And just so I don't forget, I'd like to say thank you again to our sponsors for this event, and also a sincere thank you to all of you for coming to the presentation today. Families and parents and guardians are absolutely a child's first educator. And as educators, we are so grateful to you for taking the time to come today. Parents and guardians, you are absolutely just wonderful people, and we so appreciate this opportunity to collaborate. Tamara, I'll just throw it over to you for a moment. Is there anything else that I need to address? I'm just kind of looking at the chat here.
I don't think so. I don't think we have any other questions. We're answering the questions as they're coming in. And thank you everybody for posting your questions. I'll just post the Parents as Partners link again. But if you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to type them in the chat and we can address them.
Awesome. David, I haven't forgotten about you. Thank you, David. David, is there anything else that you wanted to add?
Oh, no, I thought this was really thorough. I think it's important to sort of underscore that it's up to the teacher really, whether or not they use that tool. If you do have students though, if you've got kids that have access to the portfolio app in their courses, it's possible that they can even print their own access cards, their QR codes directly from their portfolio account. So you can always check inside of your kids' portfolio account to see if you have the option to print those cards.
Oh, perfect. And I should say I do often get a question, like when they're using the app to scan the pass cards, do they have to be printed to scan? And I say no, you can actually scan them off of like a computer or something. That works great, but printing them for sure. Yeah, thanks, David. Tamara and David, thank you so much for collaborating on this presentation, being here today. Much appreciated. And again, families, I appreciate you coming today to be a part of this. I'm just gonna stop the recording.